One of President Trump's most senior aides is stirring things up among the Republican faithful by pushing for a tax increase on the wealthy. Chief strategist Steve Bannon says he wants the top tax bracket to have a number 4 in front of it. Right now, the tax bracket for those earning the most is 39.6%. That's if you earn more than $418,000 a year. Gene Marks, CPA, advocate for small business, and a contributor to the Washington Post. Gene, great to have you.
Hi, Leland. How are you? Good to see you.
Incredible, considering that the president has so often talked about tax cuts, and now over July 4th weekend, you've got Steve Bannon talking about, oh, well, you know, for the wealthiest, we're going to raise it somewhere up in the 40% range.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? And Leland, tell me this. I mean, I actually haven't heard the name Steve Bannon in a while. You know, it seems like he's been like playing somewhere in the shadows, and then all of a sudden he's the big news this weekend because now he's proposing a tax increase. Where, you know, if you're a Republican, you're a Trump supporter, you're a business owner like me or like so many of my clients. Oh my God, a tax increase is sort of the last thing that we expected to hear, and not something that we think would be good for us or for our businesses.
You have to think about when this is happening. It's happening as healthcare is somewhere between stalled and in need of a new engine in terms of, if you want to continue the car metaphor, for healthcare reform. Tax reform we haven't even gotten to, and still you've got to come up with a budget. Is this perhaps an olive branch to the Democrats of saying, look, if you give us something on healthcare or you give us something on tax cuts to the middle class, maybe we're willing to sock it to the wealthiest Americans?
You know, I'm going to give Mr. Bannon the benefit of the doubt and say that it might be an olive branch to the Democrats, but more it might be pragmatic thinking. I mean, when you do the numbers of the president's latest budget proposals, I mean, he is looking to send the government into $10 trillion more in national debt over the next 10 years, depending on which study that you read. And every congressman, senator that I speak to, you know, they're trying to fund this health care reform, and they're really having a hard time raising revenues. I mean, just a few weeks ago, people were talking about taxing employer contributions. So I think Bannon is actually looking at those numbers, and while he may be extending an olive branch to, you know, the Democratic side, he's trying to raise some money. Having said that, would increasing taxes, even just a few percentage points on the very, very wealthy, make a difference? I mean, the top 10% of this country already pay 2/3 of the tax bills right now, and the bottom 50% wealthy pay less than 3%. Other tax bills in this country.
This brings up sort of a key point. It's something that people talked about during the election. Are we seeing now the true split between the populism movement that elected Donald Trump and the conservative movement that he aligned behind as a quote-unquote Republican?
You know, I think there has always been that split, and people don't talk about it. But at the same time, a lot of the large donors and people that are financing that very popular agenda are big money people, and of the wealthy and large corporations as well. So there really is a lot of overlap there. And Leland, look, I mean, you know, again, I can only speak. You can speak to 10 economists, and will tell you that raising taxes on the wealthy will spur growth in the economy. And then you can talk to another 10 economists and tell you the exact opposite thing. I mean, I've come to the conclusion that no one really knows exactly. So it really is a populist move when somebody says something like this. I can just see what it is here on the ground with my clients. And, geez, you know, raising taxes on even the wealthy, these are the people that are funding, they're investing, they're buying equipment, they're hiring, you know, employees. I can't see that as anything but detrimental to their cause.
We'll have to see how this has an effect on the markets, because they were up on Monday. This thing broke late Sunday night. Once people get back and digest it, whether the tax cuts that seem to be baked into the market start coming out of the baking, so to speak. Gene, appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Leland. Have a good one.
All right, Molly.